Welcome to my review today of the Murphy Models MM0222 called the River Dargle. It's a Class 201 locomotive from Murphy Models in the grey Enterprise intercity livery. I've been meaning to cover this for a while, so I want to go through this today and give you a look at it, and also talk about some of its features, and then take a look at it in terms of its running performance and do an overall assessment. So it comes in the standard boxes for the 201 locomotives, very similar to the boxes that you get the 071s from Murphy Models in. So you'll be all familiar if you have one of these models from Murphy Models previously, be familiar with this. The kind of documentation sheet you get with it, when you get this out of the box, it is a DCC ready, model 21-pin DCC ready. So I have installed the sound module in this, so and that's what we'll be exercising when we do the run out. So we'll get to hear the Murphy Models sound effects, as well as actually see the performance of the locomotive, which I think should be pretty good. The data sheet you get is pretty small and pretty skimpy. It gives a little bit of background history on the 201s, and I suppose the 201s are still in service. They've had a checkered history actually. There was lots of reliability problems with these locomotives in the early days, but they still are in service, and you will still see them, and you'll see locomotives in a slightly similar livery to this. They'll have changed to the latest Iron Road Air kind of branding on the latest locomotives that you will see. But they're still in service, and I suppose that's good to see. So there isn't a lot in this in terms of data sheet. It's a bit sparse, put it that way, and I think it's probably a little bit of a complaint I have from Murphy Models in terms of documentation. The sound decoder piece, I'll talk a little bit later on about that. It is very simple to install sound into this locomotive. It does have the speaker pre-installed, and it has a connector on the very top of the locomotive that's easy to access to install the sound module, or the DCC module without sound, if that's just what you're installing. So that's a huge plus point. But documentation wise, it is sparse, and I think for a loco like this, it deserves a little bit more. Packaging wise, I don't really have a huge issue. I have had some issues with the 071 packaging, less so here with this, because I think the packaging here is a good fit. It's a good enough fit. It's not the same sort of tight fit that you get on the 071 packaging. So it's a lot easier to get these in and out of the box. You've got an outer kind of protective plastic covering there. You've got this inner sleeve that sits over the locomotive, and that's very kind of allows it to sit neatly into the packaging, and also facilitates removal actually from the packaging as well. So I'm actually not as don't have the same sort of issues with the 201 packaging as I have with the 071. This is quite sufficient, and it's a nice box overall, so I'm pretty good with this. It does come with a detailing kit. That's the blanking plate for the DCC, because I've installed the sound decoder. I haven't installed any of the detailing kit here, and you'll see a little tool there, a little black tool. That's just a tool that can be used to open the top hatch where you install the DCC socket. You can use a small screwdriver as well to do that. So you'll see the various extra piping in there. You'll see the skirting to put on the front of the locomotive, etc. So a reasonably good selection of extras there in the detailing kit, should you wish to add those. So overall, good start. This looks good, looks very promising. So I think the next thing we'll do is we'll take it out of the box, and we'll start looking at this loco in a little bit more detail. Okay, we've got the locomotive out of the box now, and we can start to take a closer look. If you're familiar with the Murphy Models 201 series, this is very much the same sort of chassis, same undercarriage build. The only real differences come with the livery and some of the plastics and the colours that are different. I particularly like this livery, this particular type of livery, and I think it's in good demand. It's pretty difficult to get hold of this now, unfortunately, with a lot of people. It is very popular with collectors. Again, similar to all the 201s, you've got the three different sets of lighting on here. You've got the headlights, the normal directional lighting, and you've also got cab lighting fitted in here. So again, similar to any of the other Murphy Models 201s or 071s, or even the 141s, you do need a 6-channel decoder to control all those functions from a DCC perspective. And if you get that with, if you get the sound module, that will have the full control for all of those capabilities. So yeah, so that's that piece. There is a nice level of detail on here. You'll see the nice legends, the handrails there, the wipers, the little grab rails in the front there, some piping detail. There is a detailing kit that comes with the locomotive as well, so you can enhance this, and you can take out the front coupler there, insert a skirt at the front there to get the kind of look that you might want. I think if a couple of comments, the DCC control and DCC installation, as indicated earlier in the roof there, and I'll throw up a photograph there just showing what this actually looks like when you take off the connector here, and that's where you install your DCC module. Extremely convenient. This is really a fantastic feature on these locomotives. Really happy with it. I use it to swap over the sound controllers between locomotives on a regular basis. It means you don't have to have a full set of sound controllers across all of your locos, or you don't have to go opening them up with screwdrivers, etc., to take them out and swap them over. So a very nice feature from day one, and it does come with the speaker pre-installed, so it just makes it all the more easier to add a DCC or a DCC sound to these locomotives. A big plus point, and I think I really love if other vendors and if even Murphy models themselves follow that approach for future models. It really is good. A couple of things on the overall visuals here. So this is a really nice model. I do like the color scheme. I like the silver, the yellow ends, and the detailing is good. A couple of, I suppose, minor gripes. I do feel that the plastic, the grey plastic on the underside here, and the overall effect on the underside is a little bit toy-like, if I use that term, and it does look a lot better when it's weathered. So I'm going to throw up some photographs of a weathered version. I'll add these to the video, so you'll see them in the final video. And I think a little bit of weathering here goes a long way and really vastly improves the whole look of the underside. Now, whether you go to weather the entire locomotive, and I'll give some examples. I'll add a couple of photos of a fully weathered locomotive. Not this direct version, but its sister locomotive, which again is in the same livery. And again, the weathering can be very effective on this locomotive. But a lot of the versions of them now are kept pretty clean. But the underside, I think, would benefit from a bit of weathering, be it on the bogies there or in the overall underside. So that's just a note. The other thing I think is a little bit off, and I know other people have highlighted this before, is the you can see it there, the front buffer, the buffers on the front and the back, and the way some of them are get a bit loose and they can twirl around like that. That's not so good. So the fit isn't great there, and hence you get this effect of the buffer going all over the place. So it would have been nice if they avoided that. So when you're putting these on the layout, particularly if you're going to take photographs of them, you just want to make sure the buffers are nicely lined up, because it can look a little bit silly. So some minor gripes there, but overall this is a very attractive looking locomotive, and I'll say a little bit of weathering underneath just adds to that. I haven't weathered this version, but I do have the weathered version, which I'll show you in the photos. And I think I have a video on that as well that I can probably show. But a really nice livery. It goes with the older orange livery coaches. So if you've got either the Mark IIs or the Mark III coaches, it's perfectly fine to run them behind this locomotive, as well as obviously if you've got any rolling stock that is in the newer liveries. That rolling stock obviously today would have to be a custom paint job. That obviously would go with this as well. But it's perfectly fine to run this in front of the orange livery coaches, the Mark IIs, intercity coaches, or the Mark IIIs, and I may have some videos in the future that would show that. Okay, so I think this looks really nice. I think it's time to get it out and start running this. I have my DCC sound module is installed. It's the Murphy Models module, so that's what we'll be testing in the run out. So give us a couple of seconds and we'll get going with getting this on the layout and seeing how she performs and seeing how she sounds.
Okay, we're all set to go here, so we'll start up the engine. It's got this very distinctive kind of startup sound. Just getting the revs up, and we'll turn on the headlights. So now you can see all three of the lighting functions are actually in operation now. We've got the cab lighting and the directional lighting, as well as the headlights. So as I mentioned, you do need a 6-channel decoder to control all of those independently. And we're on our way. And again, as is, I suppose, to be expected from a Murphy Models locomotive, any of the newer ones for sure. Low speed performance is very good. It's rock solid, very steady, no jerkiness in the movement, so very realistic. And that's both under DC and DCC, so if you do run this on a DC layout, you will not be disappointed. It does perform superbly under DC, and that, again, that's the same for any of the newer Murphy Models, 071s and 141s. They're all excellent performers on both DC and DCC. We're running today with the rake of some Dapol pocket wagons with some representative containers installed in those, running with a rake of 5. This is a very powerful locomotive. You could run a much larger rake if you so wished. Just, I suppose, a comment as you see the locomotive coming out of the tunnel there. If you look at the underside, just that comment I was making earlier about a little bit of weathering, that's really where it would make a nice difference to see a weathered underside. It really would add to the realism. No, I do need to do a bit of weathering on these pocket wagons as well. I do have a separate video with the stablemate of this locomotive, another Class 201 in the same livery, which is fully weathered. It's got both the underside and it's got the main body weathered, and that's actually running with a different sound controller as well. I have a video of that running with the SoundTraxx controller, configured as a UK Class 66. And you may say, well, how is that going to work? Well, the Class 66 actually has a near identical prime mover engine to this particular locomotive. So the actual sounds are very authentic. The startup sounds and the engine sounds are pretty well the same. And actually, in some ways, the SoundTraxx decoder is quite a good decoder. And I think if you do listen to that video, you should be impressed by the sounds from it. It doesn't have the same range of sounds as the Murphy Models decoder, and it won't have any of the obviously Irish station announcements. But I still think it's an impressive option, and it's literally roughly half the cost of a Murphy Models sound decoder. So, and it's also configurable for other diesel locomotives, other UK diesels. So it's a very flexible controller into the bargain. So check that out. Check out that video if you might have an interest in that, as a cheaper option for sound, and also to get a feel for the weathering. So we're going to speed this up a little bit. There is a separate video with the full running session of this locomotive. Again, I'll put a link in the description. We'll speed this one up a little bit. We'll get up to the higher speeds more quickly to give you an idea again of the kind of running performance of this particular 201. And as I said, it shares the superb running performance of any of the Murphy Models locomotives in recent years. They're all excellent performers at all speed ranges across different track types. They're very tolerant to dirty track. They're very good on the curves, though in general I would tend to run these on, particularly the 201s, I prefer to run them on a radius 3 or radius 4. The 071s you can probably get away with the radius 2. You just get better performance out of them, and they don't always like running on the narrower radiuses, but they will run on them nevertheless. No problems over points or diamonds. So they're very, very stable locomotives. I've never, derailment is never an issue with the Murphy Models locomotive. So just coming to a close, I hope you enjoyed that running session and give you a feel for I think what has an excellent performing locomotive. ranks alongside all of its stablemates, and very good looking locomotive on the layout as well. And as I said, it could be helped a little bit with the weathering, but nevertheless an excellent performing and excellent looking locomotive. Okay, so that brings this part of the review to an end, and we'll get into the scoring and the summary in the next section. Okay. Okay, so let's take a look at a summary for this particular locomotive. So we are talking about the MM0222, which is an Irish Class 201 diesel. This is in the IE Enterprise livery, the grey type livery. This is a diesel electric locomotive with the diesel prime mover and electric drive to the wheels. It comes as a 21-pin DCC ready locomotive. With a pre-installed speaker, so when you're installing your DCC Sound, the only thing you need to add is the actual module, the 21-pin module, and there's very easy access for that at the top of the locomotive, as you'll have seen in the review. There is a standard Murphy Models option, which is the MM0044, and that's what we've just seen on the running session. There are alternatives from various vendors, and there's also what I would describe as a low-cost option from SoundTraxx. They do have a highly configurable diesel decoder module, a 21-pin version, which is roughly half the cost of the MM0044, and it does have an option for the UK Class 66 diesel, and that diesel actually, as I say, has a similar prime mover to the 201, and hence gives you the same sort of engine sounds, the same startup and engine sounds as this particular locomotive. It does give you all the sound effects that you get on the 044, but I think it is a low cost option if you want to go down that route, and I have a separate video link in the description that goes through that you can actually listen to it. Other features: it has the kind of directional headlights and cab lighting, all independently controlled, similar to all of the other newer Murphy Models locomotives. It's very easy to install either a DCC or a DCC Sound controller through the roof of the locomotive. Very, very handy feature for installation, or if you want to go swapping decoders in real time. So that's something to take a look at. It does have spring buffers on the front and back. Retail price, it does vary, and you'll see it selling between about 129 sterling and 159 sterling. This is a more difficult to find livery for the Class 201s from Murphy Models now. So I think if you do start seeing it on eBay, you're probably going to see it at the upper end of that range, just because they are pretty well sold out from a retail perspective. Very few of these available through the retail channels. You will probably need to get them second hand or through the eBay marketplace. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is take a look at the scorecard for the MM0222. Performance-wise, this is an excellent performer, and it's a 5-star, similar to all of its most recent stablemates. So all the Murphy Models 201s that have been manufactured in recent years, not the Lima versions, which would be a bit older. Certainly all of the new Murphy Models versions would all be in the 5-star category, so it shares that with its other stablemates. Appearance-wise, again, this can come down to personal taste. I'm giving it a 4.5 star, and it lags just that little bit behind the Class 071s from Murphy Models, which would be a 5-star here, which have a fantastic level of detailing. I just think there's a little bit less on the 201s. Still a very good looking locomotive, and then the livery, really, it depends on your preferences in terms of livery. I think this is a particularly nice livery myself. So a 4.5 star, a very nice looking locomotive, no issue there. And as I said, there is a really good level of detail here. The 071's just probably having an edge in this category. The sound, again, 4.5 star for the out-of-box sound. There are other options out there and that can do things like beefing up the speaker and maybe giving you additional sounds, etc. So you can get to the full 5-star if you go and purchase some of those alternatives. However, that can be quite an expensive option. As I mentioned, there is a lower cost SoundTraxx option, so worth checking that out. That's not scored here. This is the scoring for the MM0044. This is the Murphy Models sound that I've scored here. However, if you take a listen to that video that's got the SoundTraxx decoder, that might be something you might be happy enough with, and it is significantly cheaper. Extra features, things like the spring buffers, the easy of install, the pre-installed speaker, and the lighting are all very good things. What's missing? There's probably a few things. I wouldn't mind having a driver pre-installed in this particular locomotive. I think that is a nice capability to have. There is no weathering out of the box. There's no weathering option for this particular locomotive, which is a pity. If you want to weather it, you'll have to do that yourself, or get a professional weathering job done for you. So that's, again, it would have been nice, because I think it would benefit particularly the underside. Documentation and packaging is good, albeit a little bit sparse on the documentation side, and that applies to the DCC option as well. The MM0044 sound decoder really has very little documentation, really just the basic information you need on the sounds. It doesn't provide you with any background information to customize. You'll have to go and search that out yourself on the web. Overall, this is a 4.5 star and a highly recommended locomotive. I think it's excellent. Obviously, the different liveries that the 201 comes in will be a matter of personal choice. I particularly like this one, and it is a popular one. Also, there are the orange liveries, and there's the other various enterprise liveries with the more silver and green, grey and green type effects, with purple. Those other alternative liveries as well. They're all pretty well providing the same level of capability as has been reviewed here, with the main difference being the actual livery itself. So my final comments are, this really is an excellent Class 201 for Murphy models. The bogies and underside, as said, would benefit from a bit of weathering because of that particular plastic used. There is good detail there, but it just doesn't come out, and the weathering does help bring that out. Very easy to install the DCC sound capability in this. I don't know a locomotive that's easier to install DCC or DCC sound. This is the easiest I've ever come across. You've got that low cost option as well from SoundTraxx, which might be worth checking out. And as I said, overall, highly recommended. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the review today. I hope this was of use to you and will help you if you are looking at purchasing one of these locomotives in the future. I've lots of other reviews coming up, so if you're not a subscriber to the channel, if you can hit the subscribe button, and we'll hopefully see you on one of these reviews in the future. Thanks for watching today, and happy modelling.